Hi, Dave.
Aloha, Ace. Can you hear me okay, brother?
Yeah, I can, actually. It's a great connection.
Good. It sounds like you're in the next room. I appreciate it.
No worries. My pleasure.
Thank you, brother. It is a treat to welcome you to All Things Considered. Do you listen to much public radio these days?
Not really. I don't have the time.
I understand. Was radio ever really a big deal when you were starting out as a kid?
Probably the most exciting time for me in radio was the first time I heard the first Kiss album played on it.
And that makes sense. I understand. It's kind of like me the first time I would hear an interview back that I had done or something like that. Well, I'm excited about the record, and Space Invader, to me, in an era when a lot of new music is not selling both due to technology, but also there's not a lot of interesting stuff out there. For classic rock fans, in my humble opinion, this album does deliver a sound very close to your late 70s solo album and even the sound of classic Kiss. How did you come up with the music that's on here and maybe the aesthetic that it offers?
Yeah, I don't know how I did it. I just do it. I mean, sometimes it shocks me how quickly I come up with songs. You know, some songs I'll write in a day or an hour. Other songs take, several days. But, I don't use a formula, and I don't know. Sometimes I'm writing lyrics, and it's almost as if somebody else is beaming them into my head. And sometimes, it's painstaking. So, each song is different. But, the recording process took 10 months, and I had a lot of fun along the way, and I'm just happy everybody likes it, I
don't know, it just gave you that feel like you were cruising in the late 70s.
Well, I haven't changed the way I record since 1978, so, obviously there's some similarities happening. By design, I tried to incorporate a few elements, from past records into this record. And, getting Warren Hewart on board to mix the record, because he uses all vintage gear and his mindset is sort of, a vintage sound, which is what I was looking for. And I think we achieved it, so I was really happy with the end result.
Analog recording part of that process with the vintage gear?
What's that?
Was it analog recording as part of the process?
No, we recorded to disc, the whole record, but using analog equipment as opposed to digital equipment, helps the process along, using old tube preamps, old microphones, old amplifiers, that sometimes makes the difference, and gives you that vintage sound, there's plugins now when you mix that kind of recreate tape compression.
Sure.
But, it's close, but it's not exact. But, we used an old SSL board, an old tube preamps, and I believe we even had some tape delay running when we did some mixing. So, that's why we, achieved what we did.
Right. Well, that's some insight into the process. So there definitely was some intention behind it. Lyrically, Ace, I look at songs like Change.
No, my fiancée Rachel Gordon wrote the lyrics. Now, she co-wrote that, and she co-wrote Immortal Pleasures with me. And pretty much she did all the lyrics, So she's a great lyricist. The other songs, they just kind of come off the top of my head, and I don't really think too deeply about lyrics. I just try to get stuff that'll rhyme.
That makes sense. Do you have when you're playing, I know that you're back and you're integrating this material into a live set. Are there favorite Kiss songs that you like to play as opposed to things the crowd wants to hear? Well,
somebody just asked me what 3 songs are definitely going to be in the set, and I said, well, obviously New York Groove, Cold Gin, and Shock Me. But, it's going to be a cross-section of a variety of songs. My career spans 40 years, so, there's a lot of records to pick from and a lot of songs.
Of the Kiss solo albums, thinking of that career, which has spanned a long time, and it is the only of the 4 records, yours by far the most successful. Not only great album tracks, but it has an enduring radio hit. You just mentioned it. Share with us a little bit of the story of how either you or Eddie Kramer or whomever came up with the idea to tap that song that the band Hello had done, and you ended up with the sole hit from any of the solo records.
Well, it wasn't my idea. Eddie Kramer, as an assistant came up with that song. I was resistant to record it, but, who knew it was going to become my biggest hit,
Wow. And so he turned you on to it, and you were resistant to do it, but any of the recording process, can you remember? It has like hand claps. I remember it has a nice aesthetic.
Yeah, I remember the stomp. We actually, me and a couple of my friends, we stomped on wooden boxes to get that sound. We didn't use a click track or a drum machine. We used, real sounds from microphones, and that's apparent. I got a couple of gals to sing on the chorus with me, and that record was a lot of fun. This new record was a lot of fun recording and producing myself. I had complete free reign in the studio, and I'm really happy that it's getting critical acclaim.
And that it holds up, I guess, was really my point about the production, especially when you listen to songs on there. Even the instrumental reminded me, when I heard Starship, it had a flavor that somehow evoked maybe a cross-section of the material that you did on your solo records through the years. Yeah,
well, I was listening to my solo album a couple of times during the recording process, and, I tried to, by design, incorporate some elements from that record because, everybody cites that as a favorite record. So, it wasn't by accident.
Speed.
I try to give fans what they want because, they're the ones that are buying the record, so.
That's an interesting statement, and you've had this loyal fan base. I was a little kid. You were one of the very first voices that I could call my own, that my parents hadn't introduced to me, that I personally chose to play on the record player, whether it was Shock Me or whether it was later on Talk to Me, things like that. When you look at the period that a lot of U.S. fans don't focus on so much, Dynasty and Unmasked, they actually age very well. It's surprising that Unmasked in particular has a very thoughtful sound. Do you have any reflection on those?
Well, that record was after the success of my solo album, so I got a lot more respect in the studio, and I think Paul and Jane realized I was going to have to be a force to be reckoned with, and it was nice getting free reign to express my creativity in the studio with the guys.
When you did the new record, you're in there by yourself doing it. You don't have someone guiding you, sort of telling you and pushing you. But yet, some of those moments in your career when there was a producer doing that ended up being pretty fruitful. Do you feel like partnership is something that can bring you something? Because, you said that about New York Groove. You didn't want to do it, but it was Eddie's idea. It ended up going further. Is there a value in bringing someone into the studio to shepherd you through the process at all?
Sure, and I got feedback from my engineers and other musicians that work with me, assistant engineers, and even friends. I'll play rough mixes for friends and say, what do you think of this? And, I take everybody's opinion with a grain of salt, but, sometimes they're right and I'm wrong. And, two heads are always better than one, and five are even better than two.
I love your math, brother. When you think of one of the great things about you is, and I'm sure you've got a lot of great material. Although material stuff isn't really worth much as you get older, you sure realize it's worth very little. But the Kiss album covers, they were something. Rock and Roll Over is my favorite. What's yours?
That's hard to say. Destroy is one of my favorites, and Love Gun. Ken Kelly painted those, and I was lucky enough to acquire his services to do this album cover for Space Invader.
Has such a great cover. I like the artwork. Sounds like you're tied with your album cover favorites.
Yeah, pretty much. All our covers were good. When I think back, a cover that always pops into my head is Alive and Dynasty, because we had Francesco Scavullo shoot the cover of Dynasty, and we've run the gamut, and then again, the second album Hotter Than Hell, I thought was a great cover, and it had that Japanese art influence, and that was kind of ahead of its time. So I mean, we've run the gamut, with Kiss and even, with my solo career, with album covers and, trying different ideas and experimenting.
That's a very artful cover on Hotter Than Hell, and you're so true. They are often overlooked. That's a very artsy, and they run the gamut, and they're yours. They're not Paul and Gene's. You were part of that. You were 1/4 of that, and to people like me who bought those records, I'll remind you, they're yours. It's all part of your legacy, and it wouldn't, any song, even if you weren't singing it, it's still your song. You're there on it, and it matters to us. So. Final note, just any chance of this tour bringing you out to the Asia Pacific, maybe into Hawaii? Any chance of something like that?
We haven't had any offers from promoters as of yet. I know we're getting offers from Australia and I think Japan. So, it's been a while since I've been in Hawaii, so, it would be a real treat to do a show there.
You have any memories of the gig here? You've just done so much, it's probably hard to separate one from the other.
Most of my memories of Hawaii are off stage,
Like what?
On the beach. With women.
Well, now I guess that would be with woman when you come back.
Sometimes it was more than one.
You're a good guy. I appreciate it, dude. I really do. I know it gets troubling doing all these one after another, but thank you very much for your time. And I appreciate you being willing to be on the program. Ace Frehley and the new record, Space Invader, and a real pleasure to have you on All Things Considered.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure being on your show, and looking forward to coming back to Hawaii if we can make that happen.
Well, please consider. There's a lot of fans out here. I'd love to have you back in the area, and a real treat to speak with you. Be safe, Ace.
Okay, Dave. You have a great day. Thank you.
You're welcome. Aloha.
Bye-bye. Aloha, it's Ace Frehley, and you're tuned in to my friend Dave Lawrence on member-supported Hawaii Public Radio.